Good evening and welcome to Slam the Gavel, the show that tells you all regarding family court, other court issues, as well as CPS. I am your host, Maryann Petri. You can find me, my books, and blogs on dismantlingfamilycourtcorruption.com, as well as on Amazon. And also, my books are in audio as well. I have a return guest. I have Carrie Haight back on. She was last on season 5, episode 185, where we talked about how no one would listen, and episode 221, where we discussed the Kids for Cash issue in Luzerne County, where really it is just as bad, if not as worse, as what goes on in family court. Now, I'm going to have Carrie Haight back on, and we're going to talk about her case that took place in New Jersey. I welcome you, Carrie Haight. Thank you.
Thank you, Maryann. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you.
Oh,
Yeah,
we have to do what we have to do to help other people, right?
yes, we do.
So I came back because this time I decided it was time to tell more of the story.
Hmm.
Back in November when I first did the No One Would Listen podcast, I wasn't really prepared yet. Emotionally wasn't there yet. But now I feel more comfortable sharing more. So I'm even going to be sharing of a little bit of my evidence
Mhm.
that I was set up. I was 100% set up. I was falsely accused of Munchausen by proxy. I'm a licensed therapist. I'm a 100% single mother. My daughter's from IVF, from a donor. And there's just a lot of really concerning things that happened in this case. It never should have even gone to a courtroom. But so I had mentioned during the first podcast, this all started with a threat. I'm prepared to actually read the threat. I'm going to sort of beep out the swear words because it's not appropriate. And I also want to say that I know we don't typically say children's names, but there's no way to avoid my daughter's name being used in this. And because I am suing in civil court, it's actually a matter of public record.
Mhm.
Therefore, not much I can really hide. So, and when you hear my name, I only have one child. So it's pretty obvious if you know me.
Definitely.
So I received this text in mid-December 2021. My daughter started these very odd symptoms of leg swelling, other random, um, unexplained, like just weird, odd symptoms, getting sick, fevers, vomiting, just all over, just not feeling well. And I didn't know what was going on, couldn't figure out why this was happening. At first thought it was an injury. It wasn't. Like she was playing softball.
Mhm.
So I thought she got hurt. That wasn't it. So this is the text message that I got. This time there is no forgiving. I'm done. I will make sure I will make sure I remember all of this. I'm tired of being hurt and then letting it go. Payback is a beep. And no, I am not calling DCPMP. I wouldn't be the person to do that, but I will be here when the school or a doctor does for my amazing granddaughter. You are no better than a name I don't want to use, who put herself over the welfare of her children. Selfish. Don't respond. I'm done. Merry effing Christmas. That is the text.
Hmm.
This was because we were arguing
Hmm.
over Christmas, over there is a issue in the family of when people contracted COVID,
Hmm.
uh, having my daughter around them, knowing they were around people with COVID, not sharing with me this information, and me not knowing what's wrong with my daughter. So I was very upset. So DCPMP came to my door January 19th of 2022. But I expected them. I had the threat. I just didn't know when to expect them. And oddly enough, I was going through texts, right before we started this podcast, and we're going to be playing a recording of me being told what the allegation is on February 20, or when they came to my door on January 19th. Let me restart this. They would not tell me what criteria I met for Munchausen by proxy.
Hmm.
Well, that's a diagnosis, not
Right.
an accusation. You can't just say Munchausen. Actually, they said Munchausen. I corrected it. You can't just come to somebody and accuse them of a diagnosis. Being a therapist, I can tell you that's just not possible.
Oh.
And now Munchausen by proxy can only be ruled out, can only be diagnosed if there is no possibility whatsoever of a medical condition. There has to be a medical rule out. There was not, which we will get into. So yeah, January 19th, 2022, they show up at my door. Just tell me this is what I'm accused of, ask what criteria. You don't have to meet any. I asked multiple times what the allegation was. February 22nd, the day before, I finally get a call from the worker telling me, the investigator, telling me what the accusation was, which she speaks really fast. So we're going to try to play it. But if you can't understand it, she's a very fast talker.
Okay.
But I had texted her on February 21st. Can I please have the actual accusation? I've asked multiple times, but I'm not getting an answer.
Mm-hmm.
I'm being cooperative, but I need to know what I'm being accused of, Munchausen by proxy, with no explanation. Why is to no explanation? Why is too broad of an accusation? And then I'd be happy to go over the referral with you, and that's on February 22nd. February 23rd, she finally calls. This is 5 weeks later. 22.
Concerned mother would be like, "Hey, look, just everyone pay attention to her." Let's see. Again, I didn't want to take her to Holy Name. I didn't want to take her to Holy Name. It's a pizza hospital. It's not a pizza hospital. Yeah. But I was on my way to Hackensack. I even have a text to my mother saying, I'm going to take her to Hackensack. They have a peds unit and a rheumatology department. She didn't want to hear it because her and my father know better. She had to go to Holy Name. Holy Name is like, we don't know. They sent her to an orthopedist. I see him outpatient, and he's like, this is rheumatology. I've been to multiple hospitals. I've been to Morristown, 1, 2, mostly been Morristown. I wouldn't keep her at, well, we didn't take her in. Well, we took her into St. My mother and I took her to St. Joe's one day, but everybody was in there coughing, saying they had COVID with no masks on. I'm not going to stay in a waiting room with a sick child with people coughing all over the place. The security guard told us to leave. He's like, don't stay here. It's even worse when you get inside. I'm not going to stay there with a sick child like that. Yeah, 2 doctors did mention that she does her eyes. Yeah, her eyes do puff up. They do. So everything that you just described is one of her symptoms. And that I've shown you. Yeah. And it was also her missing school. But that wasn't it also her missing school? But that was our concern when I went to the school initially with the first referral. That she had a lot of absences. With doctor's notes that you had seen all of them for. Yeah, no, I was right. And there was no issue with the school until my mother called the school and caused a problem with the school. The school nurse had told me, like, whatever time you need, just keep us in the loop. Let us know. Just make sure we have really good doctor's notes. Right. I can't tell a doctor what to write on a doctor's note. I only, I'm only the mom. Right. I can ask if there is specific, but you know what I mean? I can't tell them how to do their job. Right. I can only ask them to be as specific as possible as far as, what she's allowed to do, what she's not allowed to do. But, because I don't know who made the report, I'm pretty sure I do know who made the report. Now, from what you told me, I'm even more sure. Because a comment recently made was, you're on rheumatologist number what? Dr. Rieseman, he said, you're on rheumatologist number what? Oh. She didn't go back to the rheumatologist at Hackensack. I waited for that appointment. And that was that was just a waste of time. Like, she's like, her date is off, or this is off. She's the first one who said she looks, what'd she say? Her eyes look tired. Mm-hmm. And then that was Dr. Now. That's the one. Remember I texted you and I said I can't, like, I'm having trouble tracking down the blood test results, like the labs. It was like 10 days later and I had no labs. Okay. You shouldn't have to wait 10 days to get labs. Right. I was told 3 days. It was 10 days. And then finally Janelle called me from her cell phone and she's like, I think it is some form of arthritis, but I don't know which kind. And there's multiple kinds of arthritis. And she was supposed to call me back and never did. Okay, well, I don't want to see a doctor who's not even going to stay in touch with you. Like, if there's something wrong with your child, you just want to get her better. Yeah. And then Dr. Paul at a Morristown, she tried to say she had amps. Every other doctor was like, no, she does not. How did they do? There's something called amps. Amps. And she's like, look it up. And I looked it up and I'm like, my child's not so, like, this before Savannah got sick, like before these symptoms started, she's the happiest kid in the world. Right. And she's like, no, I think this is caused by massive depression, maybe because she doesn't have a father. I'm like, are you kidding me? Caused by that? Yeah. And she's the one who asked, did my mother, she asked Savannah, did your grandma put something in your food? And I said she wouldn't do that. And I also ixnayed the conversation because it was getting a little too deep for being in front of a 7-year-old. Sure. So when I have to correct a medical professional to stop talking, in a certain way in front of a child, because, you're saying she's depressed from what's happening, but let's talk about it in front of her. There was a better way to handle it. But I had the appointment with Boston already. Like, I went to the appointment with Dr. Paul just because I'm like, all right, if I can keep it all here and this person seems competent and they're going to figure this out. No, she wrote a script wrong too. So Janelle couldn't write a script for an ultrasound. Couldn't write a script for an ultrasound. But we went to St. Clair's because of all the other hospitals that had all the COVID patients in them. Because Savannah woke up really sick one morning. And that's when my mother was with me. And I'm upset with her because that's when I found out she had already known she was exposed to COVID. So she didn't belong in a hospital or with me or Savannah. And that's when the doctor did the ultrasound of the hip. And so there's fluid in her hip. Okay. But even Dr. find Dr. Ham's number. Dr. Ham will tell you, like, we talked about it. She's like, you can't. Just so you know, she's always crazy busy. So she forgot to call me back. But she's super nice, but she's just always busy. Just if she knows I'm the family, because when I saw her, she knew that we were reported, and she's like, for what? And then when I was there the last time, she said, what criteria do you meet? She goes, you don't meet any criteria for this. She even wrote me a letter saying, like, I'm a attentive mother. I'm a good mother. Like, none of the symptoms that Savannah has can be produced. There's never been anything in her labs that have shown I've done anything to her. Like, what you just described to me does not meet the criteria for Munchausen by Proxy. That's why I wanted to know what criteria they're claiming I meet. So because you have to, as an adult, this is my validation for it, and anybody who's I've talked to about it has agreed with me that as an adult, if you go to a doctor and you know there's something wrong with you and they're not helping you, do you continue to see that doctor or do you try to find somebody who knows what they're doing? We're also in the middle of a pandemic where ERs are just, what they were doing is they were giving her shots of Toradol, which I don't want her having shots of Toradol. That hurts. Yeah. It burns. They're giving her shots of Toradol and then going, oh, look, the swelling went down. Well, yeah, because you just gave her a shot of Toradol. Right. Of course the swelling's going down. If it wasn't going down, I'd be concerned. But then for her to have, of course the symptoms are going to come right back. There's nothing I can do about that.
So now she doesn't know anything about medicine, obviously.
No. And I'm not the most versed in medical either. I mean, I have MS, so I know certain terminology, like the word gay. I know certain things. I don't know a lot. And I am not like Dr. Google. So, I was just actually looking. There's a lot of texts, where I'm saying to her, Are you going to tell me what I allegedly did? And Dr. Hom is, I want to explain who everybody is. Dr. Hom is actually the rheumatologist who I wanted to get into Boston Children's Hospital since day one, because everything that was going on was very odd. And I wanted her to see the best of the best. And they had a satellite office in New York, which is about an hour and a half away from us. So it wasn't specifically Dr. Hom I was looking to see. It was just someone out of that office to figure this out. And I had even texted that investigator on the 17th, days before that, saying, "Did you speak to Dr. Hom yet?" And she's like, "No, I haven't had a chance to call her yet." "Did you schedule my psych eval yet?" "No, I haven't had a chance to do it yet." So they just keep going with this narrative of I'm refusing. I'm refusing. No, never refused my psych eval. It did not happen. Never. All I asked was that if it was possible, was that I was questioned first by the psychologist, and then my daughter be. But I was confused because I didn't understand. I get a call on March 3rd from the investigator telling me they're taking me to court. I don't know what that means. I had no idea what Karen's supervision of my child meant. I thought that meant they were taking her away. Nobody was explaining anything. And to me, this is just very frustrating. So Dr. Hom is a rheumatologist out of Boston Children's Hospital who had spoken to the investigator and had verified for her that my daughter had swelling of multiple joints. And no, they didn't know what the cause was, and it could take a while to figure it out. So when I had next spoken to the investigator, I said to her, she'd finally spoken to the doctor. And I said, well, that alone, if she's got swelling of joints, there's something wrong. What's causing the swelling of the joints? I can't cause swelling of the joints. And they neglected to tell this doctor out of New York that in New Jersey, because I had to take my daughter out of school, which, let me rewind a little bit. November 17th, she sees our family practitioner who keeps her out of school from November 17th, when he sees her, through November 29th, 2021. There's multiple doctor's notes. Every absence, there was a reason why. And I also wanted to make this known. During COVID, when kids were in public school, my daughter was in private school. She was in school in a mask the entire time. She wasn't doing the hybrid stuff like everybody else was. Mm-hmm. So they're trying to claim I'm school neglect, this neglect, that neglect. And as you can hear from the recording, I'm being accused of drugging my child. And they have asked my daughter about, does mommy give you any medicine? And at 7 years old, my daughter responded, yeah, gummies. Well, instead of asking me what the gummies were, they just, of course, alluded to the fact that it was CBD or something else. It was melatonin and vitamins.
This is what they do.
Yeah, over the counter, which I was told to give her by her doctor to help her sleep. Because when she was going to private school, it was a very far drive, and she was getting up at the crack of dawn. She'd been on melatonin, but instead of just asking me. So yes, it's just getting very irritating. Mm-hmm. So they tell me they're taking me to court, but interestingly enough, she had said there was a concern about school. I had actually texted her that I had already enrolled her. Mm-hmm. And we were just trying to figure out how to handle it, because the school nurse, who also witnessed all the symptoms, but this was never introduced into evidence. The school, the multiple, countless notes from schools when my daughter was court ordered to go back into school, even though she was sick. Because they weren't telling the judge the truth. And March 3rd, and you've heard that recording, it's very long, where I am told which judge it is, and she tells me it's Judge Wright. And I said, oh, he's going to think this is ridiculous. I know Judge Wright. I've worked with him in the past. And I did truly think he was going to think it was ridiculous because it is ridiculous. But unfortunately, a few people got in his ear, which we're going to lead up to. So then we go to March 5th. So I'm told on March 3rd, I'm being taken to court. That's on a Thursday. I don't have a verified complaint. I have nothing. I have no idea what is going on. And she says, once it's ready, well, you have to be in court at 10:30 Monday morning. And I'm very upset because I have my court hearing for the TRO that Tuesday. And that had been going on since January 21st. And we had Judge Marcy McMahon for that. Oddly enough, on March 7th, my first day of DCP&P family court, I get an email at the end of the day telling me that I no longer have Judge Marcy McMahon on my DV matter. I have Judge Wright, the same exact judge that I have for DCP&P. Now, that is not a coincidence at all. At all. Also, I'm told on March 3rd that I'm entitled to a public defender because she's aware money is an issue at that point. I never said, I don't know where these conversations were coming from because at that point I was financially fine. More than fine. So I'm like, where are you getting this from? To the point of I wasn't entitled to a public defender. Like, I made too much money. I own 2 businesses. Like, I was making way too much money. So there was no way I can get a public defender. But she's making comments that I never said to her. She keeps saying, like, you told me that. Well, since I didn't speak to you, lady, I don't know where you're saying I told you that from. Because between January 19th and that phone call, she came out once and she was in my house for 11 minutes. With a coworker. I do not know her name. She didn't have a badge. Nothing. And it was a very odd thing. Now, one thing that I had just mentioned to the investigator when she came out on February 11th, announced that we had seen the doctor 2 days before that, and he was acting odd. I've been going to this doctor for over 20 years. Well, I guess my gut was right because I found out later that they snuck my mother into the office at the same time that we were there. So I felt like he was walking us out, and it was very bizarre. Well, it would be bizarre when my mother's in the office at the same time while she's got a TRO against her, and she's not allowed to be in the office. So that was done behind my back. So they brought her in one way and took me out another, which would have been a TRO violation. I also want to preface this too with some things that come across in these recordings, whatever, where I'm always blaming my mother. That is because that's the picture that was painted. I later find out there's more people involved. I think my mother made some poor choices. I know she regrets a lot of them. And she has owned her part in this and has profusely apologized. And I'm just, we're baby steps, but she's like the only person I'm really even trying with at this point. So then we have I have court March 7th, and it is an absolute disaster. I cannot speak. I have no lawyer. And Miss Christina Perez, the investigator, is put on the stand. And this is me speaking to her March 15th about what happened in court on the 7th.
I was in a courtroom. I was told, let me finish, please. Because this is what's been going on the entire time is I've been cut off, which is why the court was not told the truth. And you and I both know that. So I would appreciate being able to speak this time, be heard, and what I actually say being reported, not what wants to be reported, be reported. Last I heard, the judge, I didn't get any order from the court on Tuesday. It's been a week. It's funny, isn't it crazy how he came up with the same idea that I came up with over a month ago? I just didn't want her put through anything she didn't need to be put through, and he agreed. Okay, so last I understood, you guys were supposed to come up with 3 providers or something like that. I don't know. I was crying because all the lying going on. I'm disgusted. I was absolutely disgusted that I've been more than transparent. Nothing. Doctor's notes. You've seen them. You said there wasn't. So last I heard is that I'm supposed to have a psyche eval. There's supposed to be 3 doctors, and we're all supposed to be, I guess, reconvening at some point. I don't know when. I don't know how it was left because it was left to the lawyers. If you remember, the judge logged off. I asked if I could log off, and I've heard nothing ever since. Okay. Cool. Attorney. It's not appealing. No, I got a different attorney. I'm appealing the decision of any of it because I can prove all the lies that were told. All that was hearsay. Jerry from the Williams Group. Top of my head. I don't know. He was supposed to be. I was going to call him this morning. He's supposed to be doing a substitution of attorney. Okay. Brian was on vacation. He was trying to get a substitution attorney, and we were trying to get an urgent hearing in front of the judge because why all the lies are being told, I don't know. The judge. Directly to the judge because talking to anybody, Christina, from my perspective, and I shouldn't even be saying anything because it's like talking to myself at this point. It took over a month for me to get an answer of what I was accused of. Had I been told sooner, I would have. If you came to my house that night and said, Carrie, they're accusing you of drugging your kid, I would have been like, and where's the urine cup? You didn't tell me for over a month, 5 weeks to be exact. If you thought I was drugging my child, if you consciously thought I was drugging my child, you would wait 5 weeks to tell me? The division wouldn't have pushed for an emergent removal? You want to know the end results of this whole thing? I'm going to be found innocent because I am. I'm turning in my license and I never want to be a therapist again because I will never be a mandated reporter again. That's how I feel. I've been that upset. I've cried every day saying, so when I make a report, out of good conscience, out of truth and fact, That's what happens. I don't ever want to be a therapist again. It's really sad. I don't know why you weren't, Christina. If you have reports, like you said on the stand, Savannah wasn't administered any medications in the hospital. I told you about the Toradol. It's in the medical reports. All right. I'm just telling you. I even sent you, I don't know if you got it through text or not. Thought there was no doctor's notes. Yeah, I did get your text. I get the picture. I'm going to print it and have it put in your file. But I tried to give you all this stuff. I tried. Boston Hospital is where I wanted her from day one. So now, let's all stop me from getting her help. Because I'm not doctor shopping. There wasn't 5 different rheumatologists. There wasn't 10 hospital visits. There was 4. And also, I shouldn't be throwing this out there, but we're going to throw this out there for fun. Think about this one. She didn't go to the hospital from November 15th to December 6th. Because she was seen at the tag-along's holiday party jumping around. Yeah, she was. Because I was letting her be a kid. Because what are you supposed to do? She's 7. Mm-hmm. Okay? The holiday parties were December 3rd and December 17th. Look at her next 2 hospital dates. The 6th and the 21st. Right after both parties. Right after she was hopping around. But there's no limitations on what she's allowed to do. It's the last time. December 17th is the last time I let her jump around. All right. So maybe I'm not crazy. Maybe I'm just a mom. Oh. Who's worried about a child? Who's dealing with a family who I've clearly told you. I showed you the text. My mom told me how she was going to do it. Way to go, Mom. I never want to see her face ever again. Restraining order or not. This child's 7. I had the cops here Friday night. I called them myself, just so you know. Okay. She was crying. She's terrified of you. I kept telling her how nice you were. She's terrified of you. Because when I logged into court, I was crying. I didn't tell her what I really feel. She's 7. Right.
So that's the end of that one.
Yeah. So I was obviously very upset. That was a horrible day.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It was even more hurtful that the judge complimented her on her testimony. I believe I counted 19 lies.
I believe it.
They told the judge that no doctor was seeing anything in Savannah. Every doctor found something.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to clear this up. I do have a timeline and my stuff for my medical insurance.
Mm-hmm.
November 13th, her leg swelled, her left leg swelled. The 14th, she went to the emergency room in Morristown, where they just did an x-ray to see if it was an injury. November 15th, the following day, she got worse. She went to Holy Name. So that's 2 hospital visits. November 17th, she sees Dr. Riesemann, who's the family practitioner, who does see a lot of things, which we're going to get into in a little bit when it comes to the psych eval. November 23rd, she saw the one and only orthopedist that she was referred to. November 30th, 2021, she was seen by the rheumatologist at the advice of the orthopedist because he said it wasn't orthopedic. That was Dr. Janelle, who did find things as well. And she sent her to be seen by an ophthalmologist, have blood work done, and have a hip ultrasound because she noticed she was walking funny. She also noticed her eyes looked tired and they were pink and puffy. December 6th, as you just heard, I took her to the emergency room at St. Clair's in Denville. There are 2 locations, not Dover. They kept in the report all over the place. It says Dover. It was Denville. I was there. I know the difference between the towns. And then on the 21st of December, she goes back to the original hospital. She went to the hospital 4 times in total, not 15. They said 5 hospitals, 2 and 3 times each. Not even close. They said when they did the report that she had been to 5 or 10 orthopedists and rheumatologists, 2 rheumatologists and 1 orthopedist. So where are they coming up with these numbers from? Look, if I was the judge and I was hearing this, I would think I was nuts too. But this is why you and I very much agree that there needs to be a jury and people to look over things, because there's no way a judge with a full docket, when we're understaffed with judges, can look at all of this. And he just believes every word they say. So I was a mess. And yes, my daughter was terrified of her. She was sneaky and just not, she's a fast talker. And I think when people hear the recording, some of her speaking is you can't even understand her because she talks that fast.
And they do that for a reason.
Yeah. And they will not explain a single thing to you.
No.
But I want to clear that up. I did not do what they said I did. It was ridiculous. And yeah. Oh, I have a lawyer already. Before when they first came to my door, I hired a lawyer. He tried to reach out to them for weeks, the DAG, the investigator, email after email, like pretty much emailing every day. He wasn't hearing anything back. But you're accusing me of Munchausen by proxy. Which I didn't call that anymore. That kind of got thrown out the window in 2013 or whatever with the DSM-4. But this is just insanity. So they didn't answer him for weeks. So he was like, well, I guess you don't need me because this isn't going anywhere. But they tried to claim that 3 days later, after I hired him, that I fired him. No, I didn't fire him. He was still texting me into February saying, I still haven't heard from him. And I said, well, good thing I didn't do it, huh? Whatever it is. And he was laughing. Yeah, you're right. Good thing. So they were even lying about my lawyer. So then you go to, I then get a permanency worker. Well, I didn't know what that was.
No.
Nobody would explain it to me. And this gentleman did more damage in 1 day than many people can do in a lifetime. I spoke to him on the phone at length and explained how I had my daughter. We did not know who her biological father is. The whole 9 yards. And he keeps saying, well, we did the math. So something's not adding up here. Well, it's not going to add up. So why don't you just ask the questions instead of assuming and making up these crazy stories? So he comes out to my house March 29th. Now, between February 23rd and March 29th, nobody came to my house. Unannounced or announced. Nothing. I hadn't even heard anything besides that conversation with her about court. And so the next recording is on March 31st after I have court. Oh, hold on, I'm going to rewind a little bit. March 29th, I go into civil restraints with my mother. She agrees to the civil restraints. And at that point, I had so much on my plate. I'm like, that's fine. I just really didn't want any more problems. So March 31st, the worker calls because the judge is requiring me to sign another release. And I'm hysterical crying. I had already spoken to my lawyer. I finally calmed down. This is my second conversation with this gentleman that day. I want you to hear what he says about what happened in court. So this is March 31st of 2022. Roman.
Sign it. I will have emails ready to go to the assessor, and it will be sent out after you sign it. Okay. But there's just I can't make it today. I'm emotionally shocked. That was a lot for me. No, I understand. I saw your reaction, and I understand where you're coming from. And it's quite frankly, I've never seen a judge. So but when the whole picture is actually painted correctly, there's nothing to worry about. Well, when you're in the process of enroll your daughter in school, and it's I had already started. So I had already started. That's not my. I can write the emails going back and forth. When the she's not in school yet because the counselor is only there twice a week. They wanted her to do virtual. I didn't want her to do virtual. I wanted her to go in person. So I met with the school. I've been in contact with the school since before March 8th. Okay. But when we put a school information, we said Milton Elementary School. I got it confused. That's where she was supposed to go. They closed that school down because of she was where she should have been. The school got closed down because of a lack of number of kids. Okay. So now they moved all the kids over to the other school. I don't really know all the schools. I have one kid. Okay. So I got the wrong school, but so it was an honest mistake. Milton School used to be K through 2. Now not Cozy Lake, White Rock is grades 2 through 5. They switched everything around, but I wouldn't have known that. Mm-hmm. Okay. So it was an honest mistake. It wasn't a lie. It was an honest mistake. Milton School got shut down. Okay. So setting everything up for tomorrow. As soon as you sign it, the email will go out. Just in case I'm like on a Zoom. They haven't. That's all I ask for. Just let me know you're in the driveway. So you don't have to give me a minute heads up just so I can end a Zoom if I have to. But I've never said anybody couldn't come. I mean, okay. So the judge. Actually, 3 weeks, but nobody did it. Nobody came out of the house. They could have. I never said they couldn't. That's a problem. It's just that you're here. I don't know. Just give me 2 minutes just in case I have to log off of Zoom. Yesterday. So, I mean, I scheduled the showing of between be done. So, you can still say you can just come. Exactly, you just let me show the house. But I never said no. Okay, thank you.
So now all they do is play games.
Yes, and I make an honest mistake and correct it with the wrong school name.
God forbid.
Heaven forbid I make a mistake and correct it. But they can all outlie. So that day in court, I believe it was threat of removal 6 times in 5 minutes, if I remember correctly. How many times it was? I could be a little bit off. Because their court report stated that I was refusing to let them in my house. He was in my house 2 days before that with a woman. And my only concern was about the psyche eval was that this woman was going to be biased if she was going to see all of their stuff. And it's one of their people. And then I looked her up when they told me who it was going to be. And her reviews were dreadful, saying she always sides with them. So, of course, I'm not thrilled about this, but I'm going to do what I have to do. I never said I wouldn't do it. I never said they couldn't come to my house. They couldn't have lied about me more times than they did. I do have a few of their reports that were sent to the court because somehow they accidentally got sent to me. That worker was removed from the case because of what he said to my daughter. And it's set up that the psyche evals are supposed to be for me. I'm supposed to be on April 8th. And then the woman evaluating me is going to decide whether or not my daughter needs an evaluation, which is exactly what I wanted and the judge wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Well, hold on. Let's throw in a consent order out of nowhere, flip-flopping it. My daughter's psych eval is now on April 8th. It's not. I do not understand what the difference is in what order you do it in. You were a psych nurse. I'm a therapist. What does it matter which order you do it in?
It doesn't.
It doesn't. And the whole idea was to not do any more harm to my daughter because she was already going through enough. Now, they throw in a court order after they assure me this is the only psychologist they can find that is willing to do it this way. And it was they didn't even start making calls until after they took me to court. They are full of baloney. And that's why they took me to court, because they couldn't enforce that I got a psychological, but I didn't know that. I had no idea of any of this. Now I just felt like an idiot at the time. Now I know, I've obviously well educated myself on all of this. And, but yeah, I mean, it was one crazy court order after another that they would just keep throwing in. Yeah, here's the order. Why all of a sudden? Why was this woman in agreement to do it the way the judge wanted and I wanted, and then all of a sudden, oh, wait, but she's not. So, yes, so that gets flipped. My daughter does her psych eval on April 8th. She had been in the hospital the night before because she had swollen really badly. And I tried to reach the worker and I couldn't reach anybody. Didn't know what to do. And she was throwing up. And I took her up to Westchester, where Boston Children's Hospital is. And they saw it. They saw it all. They documented it all and said, we just can't keep her because this is not an emergency. This has been going on for months. Like, we just can't admit her though. And I understood that. So the next day she has her psych eval and she's exhausted. This woman met with my daughter half hour, maybe that, if that. Her psych eval is 27 pages long.
after talking to her for 30 minutes.
And it's actually not funny, haha.
Ah,
He says that my daughter knows all about sex and this and that. My daughter still does not know. For the record, my daughter's birthday is tomorrow. She will be 11.
maybe she had that report confused with somebody else's kid.
No, because oddly enough, when you look at the reference page from her report, it doesn't reference the mounds and mounds of evidence I brought with me with the complaint to show the 115 lies that I found in the complaint. But I did gladly give her a copy of the 115 lies I found in the complaint. Very large lies. There was nothing true in this complaint. Nothing. So nobody's understanding how this is happening. But she diagnosed my daughter. I later find out I didn't even know I had these until a long time later, like after court was over. Child neglect, child psychological abuse, unspecified anxiety disorder, and unspecified somatic symptom and related disorder. So it's all in my daughter's head. She's essentially saying, I'm nuts and so is my kid.
Where do they get these people? Seriously.
So then I do my psych eval on the 14th of April. And as I'm walking in, something does happen. Or no, as I was walking out, something happens, which we'll play. But so yeah, I do my psych eval and I have everything with me. My psych eval is 33 pages. And it's pretty much their verified complaint, which is all lies. I marked up every page of it. It's insane. So it's later brought to my attention after the court case is dropped. It's over. Everything ended in May of 2023. But that there was always concern about my psych eval, that it was not valid, and the division knew that. Everyone knew it. Because on page 3, and this is only one example of countless examples in this psych eval, it states, on November 17th, 2021, Savannah was examined by Dr. Riesemann for left knee pain and swelling, which she had reportedly had for the past 5 days, and for which Ms. Haight had taken her to the emergency rooms at Morristown Medical Center and Holy Name. Dr. Riesemann indicated that Ms. Haight had reported that she had not been seen at Holy Name by an orthopedist. That she's got a lot of things totally inaccurate in here, and I'm also misquoted a ton of times, but I'll deal with that in courtroom. Fast forward. Dr. Riesemann observed that Savannah had swelling and exhibited decreased extension of her left knee, and a ton of other things that she leaves out here, by the way, because I have his report from November 17th. And opined. I'm so sick of the word opined.
Oh, yes.
He didn't opine anything.
Right.
He thought, okay, that she might have viral synovitis. No, he was referring her to an orthopedist and a rheumatologist to rule out toxic or viral synovitis. He recommended that she follow up with an orthopedist and a rheumatologist, that she stay home from school until the Monday after Thanksgiving. So since Munchausen is a diagnosis of medical, there can't be any medical issues. Right there, I don't have Munchausen by proxy. Goes on to talk about how the rheumatologist concerned it's rheumatoid arthritis. Goes on to talk about how they found fluid in her bursa on an ultrasound, not an x-ray. But everyone just keeps repeating. Oh, and how the one doctor saw that her eyes were swelling. Yeah, she's got, however you pronounce the word, swelling of both eyelids. There's quite a few things. She's got chronic fatigue. It is confusing. It makes no sense. It is very odd. And it's frustrating to me as a mom because I want her to get better. It makes me sad. I just want her better.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, I don't think we said anything yet. We do live in another state, and she's under the care of two hospitals under their pediatric complex medical team. And all the things that were seen from the beginning are now resurfacing again when I was told they meant nothing. They don't mean nothing. That's just so this label was just slapped on me.
Mm-hmm.
It's in this EPIC program. Everyone's seeing it and just saying, well, mom's crazy, so move along. Nothing to see here.
Mm-hmm.
So it was April 11th. I remember talking to Felipe and his supervisor. And this is 3 days before my psych eval. And the supervisor says to me, you're going to be in court an awful lot. How can you make that statement without me having my psych eval yet? Mm-hmm. So I don't want to hear these things aren't predetermined, just like the cash for kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
I get diagnosed with this is very hard to read. Encounter for mental health services for perpetrator of parental child psychological abuse. Factitious disorder imposed on another. An unspecified personality disorder. Unspecified trauma and stress-related disorder. And in the first paragraph, it ends with removal of Savannah from her care must be considered. She had asked me about a childhood trauma. I told the truth. She says I'm manipulative. So I took a polygraph to prove I wasn't lying. Mm. I passed that polygraph. There's almost it's as close to 0% percent chance of lying as it could be. Mm-hmm. There's no deception whatsoever. I'm telling the truth, but she calls me manipulative. I also test too well. And then says that I refuse to answer some of the questions that she gave me to fill out in the things that they put into the computer. Mm-hmm. And I was refusing. I can't answer questions about her father or the person I'm raising her with since I raised her alone. And I did pose the question at one point. If my daughter's father had died, would this be happening to me? No. Well, if you go onto Facebook and you look up this psychologist, which I have all of this stuff, I just didn't get a chance to print it out. The psychologist has a very public Facebook page. She came up with somebody I might want to be friends with. That's a hard no, as I mentioned in the previous podcast. And she was going to hate me. Every one of her posts that I'm seeing is about abortion, pro-abortion, 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 pro-abortion. Well, my daughter's a miracle IVF baby. Mm-hmm. I had to fight to have her. I had one embryo left. Don't try to take my kid away from me. So she says I need all this specialized counseling that doesn't even exist. But the next court date, the judge says I have to go to a certain place. I didn't want to go there. I wasn't fond of them, but my daughter was forced to go there. So I texted my lawyer because, again, he was leaning toward removal again. And my lawyer jumps in. So I just got a text from my client. She's going to do it. She's going to do whatever she has to do. And I think that may have been the first compliment I got from the judge when he said, this is a mom who really loves her kid. And I think he's starting to realize here, something's not right. So next we can go to so as I was walking out of my psych eval, I do meet my new worker number 3. And I'm going to preface this with, she ends up being wonderful. But we did not start off well. So April 26th, 4/26 of 2022, I bring up her inappropriate joke that she's making as I'm in the office.
She's been through enough. I'll just make it up more than funny. I understand you were making a joke. I don't think you meant anything toward me, but it was funny. Yeah, very inappropriate, very not funny. When this whole story about me has been made up, and I hear that as I'm walking out the door, I didn't exactly get the warming cozies.
No, she wasn't talking to me. She was talking to a coworker. But to make the comment, if I don't know the truth, I just make it up.
What's that?
For her to make the comment to a coworker, no, it wasn't made to me. I don't think it was intended for me to hear it. But they should not be even joking about if I don't know the truth. I just make it up. But clearly she's apologizing, saying she was wrong.
Oh, yeah. Backpedaling.
Yeah. Yeah.
A psyche valve should not be on there. That's all over paper thin. My HIPAA was violated. Dr. Winston's a liar. Yes. She's now ruined my career. If I ever wanted to go back to doing it again, which I stopped doing it once this all happened, because if people are going to lie about me like this, I won't put a family through this.
Yeah. Terrible.
So now's where it gets really funky. I had temporarily put my daughter with my parents. I brought her to the police station because when I was told what the psyche eval said, I was worried about my daughter being pulled out of school and being traumatized, and I didn't want that to happen. Lies were told about even what happened with that. And oddly enough, I don't have that old worker, Felipe, anymore. I hadn't had him since March 31st or whatever it was. And he's still writing court reports at the end of April, claiming I'm not letting them visit. I'm not letting them do this. I'm not being cooperative. None of this is true. And he's not even the worker. So how is he turning in reports? Like, this is getting really upsetting. So after that, she sent me a copy of their bill. If you notice, there's some stuff blacked out, but I can read through it, the Sharpie. But we went to civil restraints. Now she's telling me our lawyer had a conversation with the court, with the judge. Well, I went to civil restraints on March 29th. Why is he having a conference with the court on April 5th?
Yeah.
And it's multiple times that he's contacting the court because he was determined to win and he would do whatever he had to do it. So from what I know, allegedly his law firm was called and there was a complaint made. That is not just a complaint that needs to go to his law firm. That's a complaint that needs to go to the ethics board. You don't do that. So I had emailed the same day my previous lawyer and asked him if he knew anything about it. And he's perplexed by this. I asked, did you speak to anyone from the court or the judge, outside of court? Because Gregory Behringer did. He's like, no. And he could not believe I was literally being set up. So I've got the DCP&P setting me up. I've got a lawyer setting me up. All because I put a TRO on for a threat at the advice of my daughter's doctor.
Right.
So she doesn't have to be dealing with any of this. So it was just a hot, disgusting mess. So I don't know who spoke. I don't know who was spoken to, whether it was the judge, whether it was the clerk, who it was, I don't know. Either way, he was calling the court and speaking to people. So she went into civil restraints
Hmm.
to stop it, but it was too late.
Mm-hmm.
Oddly enough, too, she had sent me an email that she had sent her lawyer that they had pages from my verified complaint. And they tried to use them in the TRO hearing the first day, the one day that we actually had a hearing.
Mm-hmm.
And the judge said there better not be a leak in my courtroom. Well, I noticed there were some pages from my report missing. And I did ended up finding out how they got, it wasn't pages, it was a little tiny bit that how it got leaked out. But either which way, you do not use that to prevail at a TRO. You it was basically, let's hold this DCPMP thing against her.
Mm-hmm.
I could not believe what my own family was doing. I could not believe it. Some of the things I was being told and whatever, I just could not believe it. And I went through with all of this alone. And like no, like I said, nobody really talks to me. Like I was cut off by like the entire family.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that I wouldn't talk to them; they won't talk to me. So, because for the sake of time, we're going to fast forward, fast forward, fast forward, fast forward, fast forward. There's a lot that happened. December 5th, I get a call from the worker telling me I'm getting worker number 4. But during this conversation, she had already told me multiple times there was no case against me. There was no case against me. Her supervisor had come out with her, sat at my kitchen table. There's no case against you. This needs to be dropped. We're trying to get this dropped. You don't belong in court. You don't need care and supervision. You don't need anything. You just, there is something wrong with your daughter. This is ridiculous. So this is her calling to tell me that I'm getting a new worker and how nice the new worker is. And ultimately, at the end of it, the new worker was mean the first couple times, but then at the end of it, she actually had concerns for our safety and things like that. But she did end up helping us get it dropped.
Okay.
But sorry, this is very important though, and this is why I think it's important that people do record, because it's their word versus yours.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just if police can't record, can't talk to a child without recording, they shouldn't be allowed to, because they
Right.
lie. They lie and they have no conscience about lying. Like they don't care that they lied. I've never seen people so dishonest and okay with lying in my life. And I've also noticed that most of them don't have children. I mean, there's some of them that are honest. I'm not going to say they're all bad,
I
but
find a lot of them are obese, like frothing water buffaloes at the water trough.
I've heard a lot of interesting ways of describing them. Um, but yeah, I mean, it was they just inappropriate things said. Just the only one who really seemed to care was this third worker, the third out of the fourth. And while I had her, I didn't get yelled at once.
Wow.
From
Oh,
April of 2022 to December of 2022, I didn't get yelled at once. Not once.
The investigations have been opened. Started looking into. I don't think so, because Christina Perez knew where I was. I have a text. I have the text that she knew where I was. She knew she was only seeing, like, it was literally, I was working around Christina Perez's schedule where she kept canceling on me. And I'd be like, look, the only time we're not going to be home is between, this time or this time, because she'll be at the orthopedist. Like, literally, he came out in November, like November 20 something or other, 22nd, something like that. She came tag along. She said I wasn't under investigation. She talked to me. She talked to Arla. She talked to Savannah. Okay, fine. No big deal. I kept her in the loop of what was going on. We thought An orthopedist, okay, so they wanted to rule out an orthopedic issue. Done. One orthopedist. Like, she knew all those doctors didn't happen because she was involved. Right. She also saw the text from Donna with the threat. Trust me, the last thing I wanted to do was have to pull her out of that school. But right. The plan was also hurt by Donna and Carl by refusing to let us move. Because I had already talked to Span, and they told me how to deal with it. That as long as I have the lease, I could contact Parsippany Schools. Right. They would start everything to get everything in place for her. But then, like Jeff, like when they wouldn't sign, I had to re-enroll her in Jefferson, which actually ended up working out nicely because they weren't very difficult to, but they were actually so easy to work with. It was like nothing for me. Like, oh, you need pediatrician in the office? Okay. Right. Oh, she gets tired? Okay, we're gonna let her take a rest. Right. Like, I still don't understand how we're here. And now to give her a new worker. But also, like, the stipulation hearing, like, which we know I'm not stipulating to anything. Yeah. Because, again, didn't even do even the slightest bit wrong. Exactly. Didn't even breathe in the wrong direction. Mm-hmm. So not agreeing to anything. She's meeting with Judge Ray on December 22nd. Yep. And then fact finding. And again, what facts is the division going to show? Because there are no facts, because none of that is true. Exactly. So why are we wasting tax dollars and everyone's time and putting a kid through more trauma? Like, you've been with her since April. I know. Why those players would want to go to fact finding or to drag this on? Again, they're foolish. Christina knows I have her on perjury on the day she testified. Because I spoke to her about it, and I was like, Christina, why would you lie about that? Like, where? She's like, you just give me an answer. I gotta, they have no intention of working this out with her. Trust me on this. This is not a new worker that you can start from the beginning. This is a new worker who is taking over from where we currently are and moving forward with you. And we're sitting here going, this case could be closed out. Like, when I spoke to Eric, the DAG, the new DAG first reached out to him, I was like, oh, this could be closed. Like, it was like the day before we had court last time. Something like that. And I was like, oh, so this could be closed out tomorrow? He's like, probably not tomorrow, but maybe next week. Okay, I mean, I don't know where he's getting that from because, again, it has to go through our legal machinations. He was speaking to the DAG. I mean, she's not even answering him now. But she still works for us, right? And she's got to work under what she's being told, and then she is trying to figure out how to. I feel like though, because whether or not Dr. Lakeman should have made the call, shouldn't have made the call, okay? He took it back and explained why he made the call. What was made. I completely forgot that this incident wasn't made. So because it was made, now trying to figure out if even having all the information would the allegations have still been substantiated based on even without Dr. Winston, even without Dr. Reisman. So they're still trying to figure it out. Without Dr. Reisman, without Dr. Winston, we have my brother.
So she's in favor of you.
Highly in favor of me, and admits when I said I didn't even breathe wrong. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't do anything wrong. That's just one of many where she tells me how innocent I am. You don't have to tell me that because I know.
Mm-hmm.
So then December 22nd, 2022, the Title IX is dropped with well, not exactly dropped. They put a finding of not established on there. So, they didn't have to, they couldn't take it to fact finding. They had no facts to show.
Right.
Because it didn't happen. Whatever it is. Because nobody even knew what we were fighting. My lawyer did not have the file. So I went through a few lawyers, but when I had the best of the best, who was my end lawyer, he was an ex-DAG, so he knew how the whole system worked. And he didn't get my file until after they dropped the Title IX on December 22nd, 2022. They kept me in court until May, I believe it was May 3rd, 2023, for a Title 30, which they just dropped. No findings, I didn't have to do anything, no conditions, just sayonara. So they knew the whole time I was innocent. And of course I'm upset. And of course my daughter actually is not better. This team of doctors is very concerned about the symptoms.
Mm-hmm. Well, because the court wasted so much time with trying
Almost,
to pin this on
almost 2
you.
years, and getting a judge to put in a court order that I can only take her to the doctor who reported me or to one hospital under dire emergency, like emergency, like life-threatening emergency. So my hands were tied. There was nothing I could do. So I feel like, with all the stuff going on in the news right now, with, you got Diddy, you got this one, you got that one, they're at least being given due process.
Mm-hmm.
Where was mine? Where was yours? Where's Monica's? Where's everyone's due process? Because they just slapped that guilty label on you so fast.
And they just call you a perpetrator. I know when my caseworker was on the stand, she called me a perpetrator, I think 20 times. She enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm lucky I ended up with Marisa, but they pulled her, by the way. She didn't get moved to a different department. I ended up finding that out too. That they pulled her. Anybody they tried to pull my therapist. They tried to pull anybody who who wanted to see the truth, who actually cared to listen and look at my proofs. I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't do anything that any other parent wouldn't do. I did exactly what I was told to do. In the meantime, things have gotten more complicated because now so much time has gone by. They're having more difficulty figuring this out, but there are concerns. That it's multiple things. But to label somebody with Munchausen by proxy when it was impossible. But I just don't. In the meantime, I was in a good position. I owned two businesses at that time. I lost my businesses. I wasn't allowed to work. Couldn't be around kids. I was on the child abuser registry. They shouldn't be allowed to just do that to you.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
And I believe we spoke with this briefly yesterday. Maryann and I talk a lot.
Yes.
And just, even though we know that people don't know things, you still carry that weight,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't want to show your face sometimes because you feel like people know somehow and they're looking at you differently, because you've been labeled a criminal, the most disgusting, vile kind of criminal, a child abuser.
Mhm. Mhm. And even
And
if you're exonerated, in the CPS hearings or whatever,
which I was.
right? But my family court judge still continued the false narrative that I was a child abuser. So,
I have a few issues with it.
mhm.
The judge on my case, again, I've repeatedly said I don't know what I would do if I was him. Although it would have been nice if there was due process, so this didn't happen because I'm pretty sure he's not going to be happy when he finds out that he court ordered this that my daughter be neglected. As my sign states, court ordered medical neglect.
Mhm.
I was not the one harming her. The state of New Jersey was
Mhm. At taxpayers' expense.
at taxpayers' expense. This did go to court. They were sued. Of course, I was told it was going to one court. It went back to the Morris County Court, where 8 adjournments and then a judge change again. And I get a retired judge who comes back, doesn't even know the case, and he dismissed everybody with full immunity. You are not immune from perjury. You are not. And every one of these evaluations and complaints and this and that, they're all certified under penalty of perjury law. When you're lying, that's perjury. It's illegal. More of our civil rights were violated. It's just disgusting.
Mhm.
So yeah, I want to know why aren't we given due process? We're just slapped with this label. So I lost my life. My daughter lost her life. And they said I was isolating her. And I was abusing her by not letting her see her family. Well, first of all, that's not true because she didn't want to see her family.
Mhm.
She was frustrated. She even wrote, I found this in one of my boxes where she wrote, "Dear Davis from Savannah. Dear Davis, why do you hate everyone, especially innocent people? We really hated your game of God. Children's lives matter too." And this had to be like from when she was 7 because I tell by the handwriting the poor spelling where right now she's got straight A's and she's extremely bright and way advanced, more advanced than that. 4 years of her life. And now we're just being told this is going to take longer and longer and longer. And it's not that doctors aren't trying. And
Mhm.
but to accuse me of invasive tests. So I did look up the definition of invasive test. She did not have an invasive test. But even when the doctor refers her to Mayo Clinic, he says, at this time, I recommend Savannah's mother take her to Mayo Clinic to limit further invasive testing due to an diagnosed illness back to November of 2021. How can you limit something that never starts? It never started.
Oh, these are uneducated people.
That's a doctor.
Uh,
So yes, so I mean, I feel horrible for my daughter. I do. She wants to be like every other kid. She was playing softball. She was a gymnast. She did things, and just she's by doctor's orders cannot be in school. She is on home instruction. It's too risky. She gets sick too fast. But
mhm.
telling the judge the truth at all, and I lost my entire life. So my child, who I wouldn't have had on my own if I wasn't financially secure. I'm not financially in the place I was before.
Mhm.
Now I'm trying. I'm making a comeback. I'm doing the best I can. But to just, I mean, I went through everything I had. I wasn't allowed, when you can't bring in an income, you're spending everything that you had on lawyers. No. sorry, you're getting sued because you harmed my child
Mm-hmm.
emotionally, physically. I don't think either one of us will ever fully recover from the trauma. We get by, you know, we have good days and bad days.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think we'll ever forget this because it was that life altering. And she's already lost nearly 4 years of her life.
And
So
some people say, well, just let it go. It's like, how can you?
I love being asked, when are you going to get over it?
Yeah.
When am I going to get over it? Well, one, when I get an answer of exactly what's going on, instead of the doctor's just saying, like, yeah, this is going to take a while because this is a lot. And there are things that showed up from day one. When I thought the labs were clean, there was nothing in them. They're told it means nothing. What do I know? I'm not a doctor. I don't know how to read labs. I don't know how any of this stuff. And they're back to exactly what they were telling me from day one.
Mm-hmm.
It could be all the could be's. I don't like any of the could be's. It is, and they are so sure about the amps thing. But at that time, when that doctor had said that, it was too, you couldn't have diagnosed her with amps. She had to have the symptoms longer. But she'd explained it was from depression. It's not from depression. And it's the most painful illness known to humans. It's worse than childbirth.
Mm.
It's extremely painful. And they forced her to suffer. I think that is inhumane, disgusting, and not only should they not be given immunity, I don't know what she's going to need for the rest of her life,
Mm-hmm.
but she deserves. There's no way to get your life back, but she deserves everything she can possibly get out of this because how do you get your childhood back? I can only imagine the thoughts going through her head when this was going on, being afraid to be taken from her mother. And the other thing is, the other reason I felt it really necessary to record was because they were lying to the judge, telling the judge it was me telling her stuff. It wasn't me. It was them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It was them.
Well, that's all they do is lie to the judge for
Yeah.
money.
Well, yeah, under, was it Title IX? This all started with the American Safe Families Act. That's when it got worse.
Right.
We're discussing that. Before that, it wasn't to this degree. This all started around 1996, 1997 with the American Safe Families Act, and it takes a village. No, Hillary, it does not take a village. And I was also mentioned to me that the reason that I could have been kept in court, and they did to me I was even brought to court, or even they were there once they came out to my house. That should have been the end of it. No, because doctors were verifying I wasn't lying. They were
Mm-hmm.
verifying there's something wrong. We just don't know what it is yet. That doesn't mean she's crazy. To just I just I can't. I think to me I just can't understand how these people who have no heart can lie to a judge and they're actually the abusers.
Right. And they enjoy it.
So I've heard, and that's really sad and disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
And I just pray every day that my daughter's going to get her answer. I got to say, we got one great team.
Mm-hmm.
I
Well,
It's hard being somewhere you don't know where you are.
Right.
You know, you do what you have to do.
And you're under the care of two hospitals and complex medical team.
Yeah, so the complex medical team is under one hospital and they refer out to another hospital. They're major hospitals, but I don't want to say the names of the hospital because then I'm giving away the seat that I'm in.
Hmm.
Um, they're very obvious, but they're very large, well-known, extremely well-known hospitals who do deal that they said this is a complex issue,
Hmm.
a very complex issue. So we've met with the complex medical team and they have the joke is every time one of them I get a call from their number, I say, which ologist is this?
Yeah.
Which ologist is this? There's a neurologist, there's
Hmm.
uh, a gastroenterologist, a thisologist, thatologist,
Yeah.
and no invasive tests. They're not putting her through anything. Blood work, which is not invasive. Nobody likes it, but it's not invasive.
Hmm.
They're not doing anything invasive. Urine,
Yeah. Well, you've got,
please don't.
uneducated, obese CPS caseworkers that think they know medicine and psychiatry, and they go around to just ruining parents and kids' lives.
Yeah. And it's just, again, how come Diddy and people like that get a trial?
Yeah. I mean,
Citizens
look,
don't.
this has to serve as a warning to, to
And
parents.
I'm so tired of hearing also about, people who cross the border illegally, they're entitled to due process. No, they're not citizens. I am though. And look,
Right.
I have no problem with them coming in. No problem with them coming in. Legally. Legally. I have
Hmm.
friends who have come in legally. But for the governor of New Jersey to allow schools to do gender things, I
Hmm.
emailed you that they passed that whatever it is,
Yeah.
about the transitioning of a child without the parent's knowledge.
Ugh.
That's abuse. That's
Hmm.
child abuse. What gives them a right to give a child medication without you can't give Tylenol to a child without the parents' permission. But you can give them gender changing medication. That's okay, right?
Yeah.
That's not child abuse. That is so child abuse because a child at that age is not old enough, does not have the mental capacity their brain's not fully formed yet. They cannot consciously make that decision. And the problem is, once the decision's made, it can't be undone.
Hmm.
So I do have a huge problem with all this.
Hmm.
Where are parents' rights? And in New Jersey, it looks like I'm glad I'm out of there because in New Jersey, it really does make me wonder what are parents' rights anymore? Because it's just getting worse. But when we appeal from Congress and all that, going to Newark, New Jersey, and showing up at a detention center, a nice detention center, and doing what they did, and then saying we're not going to comply. We're not going to comply. They have due process. But if I had refused, like they claimed I did, which I did not, I could have lost my daughter. This doesn't make any sense.
Hmm.
So I'm doing this because I wanted people to understand the importance of make sure you cover yourself. If
Hmm.
they show up at your door, the narrative in New Jersey is they only do this to poor single Black mothers. That's not true. They do it to a lot of people.
Hmm. People with careers, you and I.
The two other people we know came from affluent families.
Hmm.
Not anymore. They're not. Same court. Why?
Hmm.
Why? And with some of the things that I've heard from, people, I I saw a video of a woman who I know being held at gunpoint by her husband. She went in for a restraining order. The judge said there was no need for one. He held a gun to her. Their 3-year-old down the hallway. DCPMP is involved, different county. And for only 3 months, I believe it was, the child had to have supervised visitation. Then it was, here, go with your father. No supervision. He almost killed her mother. There's something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
This is not justice.
No, no.
And if they keep giving immunity to these people, which is why I'm in the appellate division right now, and I'm not stopping. I will take this all the way up. And you know it, Maryann. You know I'm not stopping, not just for my daughter. I'm not stopping for every victim that's ever been through the family court. I'm not stopping. I will take whatever law class I have to take. I have my degree in pre-law. I will keep going because this has to stop.
I agree.
It's just wrong on every level. And when this is happening in every state in the country, why?
Money. Title 4B, D, and E. Social Securities. Oh, thanks, Bill. Thanks, Bill and Hillary. You're a big help.
Yeah. Right?
I'm so glad you came out and spoke out and, proved your innocence, because you can't do it in a courtroom. You have to do it here.
Yeah. I know the story sounds crazy. I remember my therapist at one point comparing my case to a Louis Vuitton trunk. She said, "You have a Louis Vuitton trunk full of proof, of evidence that you're innocent." I said, "No, it's a knockoff. I can't afford a Louis Vuitton."
No.
And she goes, "No, because it's real. Because the facts of what you have, like you didn't do any of this, that psyche eval is baloney, and everyone know it. You're Louis Vuitton. It's real."
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was such a great analogy. And I think that's probably where I should end it. Just that there are people who do want to be on your side. I don't want to say they're all bad. And there just has to be a better way. There has to be a better way.
I agree. And I totally thank you. And if anyone wants to reach Carrie, they can reach her through me at dismantlingfamilycourtcorruption.com. So, hey, Carrie, don't jump off, okay? Slam the Gavel is a podcast to help the public understand what really goes on in these courtrooms. I'm your host, Maryann Petri. You can find me on Spotify, YouTube. Please like and subscribe. Apple, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Google, and other platforms. Again, feel free to buy me coffee to help keep this podcast going. Thank you, Carrie Haight, for speaking out. Thank you.
Thank you again. Hopefully we'll have some updates soon.
Okay.